It was a dark and stormy night. The rain was pouring down like shards of glass, and the wind howled through the skeletal trees. In the midst of this tempest, a lone figure trudged down the deserted road, his coat pulled tight against the biting cold. The man, named John, was heading home from a late-night shift. His car had broken down and he had no choice but to brave the storm. As he walked, he noticed a faint light in the distance. It was an old, abandoned house that everyone in town said was haunted. Driven by curiosity and the need for shelter, John approached the house. As he got closer, he could see the silhouette of a woman in the window. She was dressed in white, her face obscured by the shadows. He called out to her, but there was no response. Ignoring the chill that ran down his spine, John entered the house. The door creaked open, revealing a dusty, cobweb-filled hallway. He called out again, but the only response was his echo bouncing off the bare walls. Suddenly, he heard a soft whisper behind him. He turned around, but there was no one there. The whisper turned into a giggle, then a laugh. It was coming from upstairs. John, driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, decided to investigate. As he climbed the creaky stairs, the laughter grew louder. He reached the top and saw the door to the room from where the light was coming. He pushed the door open and what he saw made his blood run cold. The room was empty except for the woman he had seen from the window. She was floating in the air, her face now visible. Her eyes were hollow, and her mouth was twisted into a terrifying grin. She pointed at John and let out a blood-curdling scream. John turned to run, but his feet wouldn't move. He was frozen in place as the ghostly woman floated towards him. Just as she was about to reach him, a bolt of lightning lit up the room, and she vanished. John found himself standing alone in the room, the laughter now a distant echo. He ran from the house and didn't stop until he reached his home. From that night on, he never walked alone in the rain, and the old house remained a chilling reminder of the rainy night. It was a dark and stormy night. The rain was pouring down in torrents, creating an eerie atmosphere in the small town of Madarihat. The streets were deserted, and the only sound that could be heard was the relentless pounding of the rain against the rooftops. In the heart of the town, there was an old library. It was a grand old building, but it had seen better days. The paint was peeling off the walls, and the once grand windows were now cracked and broken. Despite its dilapidated state, the library was a beacon of knowledge and a source of pride for the townsfolk. On this particular night, the librarian, a middle-aged man named Rajat, was working late. He was alone in the library, surrounded by the musty smell of old books. Suddenly, he heard a noise. It was a soft thud, like a book falling off a shelf. Rajat dismissed it as the wind and continued his work. But then he heard it again. This time, it was louder, more distinct. It sounded like footsteps. Rajat felt a chill run down his spine. He knew he was alone in the library, or at least he thought he was. He decided to investigate. He picked up a flashlight and ventured into the dark aisles of the library. The rain was pounding against the windows, and the wind was howling, creating a symphony of terror. As he walked down the aisles, he noticed a book lying on the floor. It was an old book, bound in leather, with pages yellowed with age. It was a book about the history of Madarihat, a book that hadn't been checked out in years. Suddenly, he heard a whisper. It was a soft, raspy voice, barely audible over the sound of the rain. It seemed to be coming from the book. Rajat picked up the book and opened it. As he flipped through the pages, he noticed something strange. The pages were blank. All the words had disappeared. Then he heard the whisper again. This time, it was louder, more urgent. It was saying something, a phrase repeated over and over again. Beware the rain. Just then, a bolt of lightning illuminated the library, and Rajat saw a figure standing at the end of the aisle. It was a shadowy figure, dressed in a long, flowing cloak. The figure was pointing at him, and in a voice that echoed through the library, it repeated the phrase, "Beware the rain." Rajat dropped the book and ran. He ran out of the library and into the rain, leaving the shadowy figure and the whispering book behind. He didn't stop running until he reached his home. From that night on, Rajat never stayed late in the library. And every time it rained, he remembered the shadowy figure and the whispering book. He never found out what "beware the rain" meant, and perhaps he never wanted to. Thank you for watching the video. Do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down the topic on which I should make the next video.